you're 10 kilometers/33,000 feet in the air, sitting in a pressurized tube where smoking has been a federal crime since your parents were in high school, and yet you go to the bathroom and there it is, a shiny metallic ashtray. Is the airline testing your willpower, or is this a glitch in the matrix? Neither. It's because engineers don't trust your common sense. They know that if someone does decide to break the law and light up, they'll probably panic and throw the butt into the trash can filled with paper towels. Therefore, the law requires an ashtray, so you don't burn down the entire plane just because you couldn't wait for your nicotine fix. And while we're in the bathroom, here's a dirty secret. Those doors don't actually lock. Oh, they lock for you, but there's a hidden latch under the lavatory sign that lets the crew open it from the outside whenever they want. You thought you had privacy? Think again. Welcome to the world of aviation secrets you weren't supposed to notice. Today we are going beyond the basic how it flies stuff. We are covering the records that sound fake, the safety rules that sound like myths, and the engineering so extreme it borders on insanity. We'll find out why a 53-second flight exists, why pilots are legally banned from having beards, and why you are statistically more likely to survive if you sit in the back with the luggage. Invest the next 9 minutes with me, and I promise you'll never look at a plane or a bathroom door the same way again. Let's dive in. Let's start with a flight so short it's basically an expensive hop. In Scotland, between the islands of Westray and Papa Westray, there is a commercial flight that takes just 53 seconds if the wind is right. That's less time than it takes most people to unlock their phone. You don't even have time to reach for your seatbelt before you're landing. Why? Because the distance is only 2.7 kilometers/1.7 miles. It's basically a flying bus for 8 people. At the other extreme, we have the flight from Singapore to New York. 19 hours. That is nearly an entire day of breathing recycled air and watching every movie ever made. Think about the logistics, the fuel, the crew, the sanity of the passengers. If the Scottish flight is a sprint, this is a marathon through a desert. But altitude is the real record breaker. In China, there is an airport called Daocheng-Yading. It sits at 4,411 meters/14,472 feet above sea level. To put that into perspective, that is nearly halfway up Mount Everest. The air is so thin that passengers often need oxygen masks the moment they step off the plane just to walk to the terminal. Imagine going on vacation and needing medical equipment just to find your luggage. You've probably noticed that most airline pilots look like they just came from a 1950s barbershop. It's not a fashion choice, it's a life and death requirement. Many airlines ban beards because facial hair can prevent an oxygen mask from sealing perfectly against your skin in an emergency. If the cabin loses pressure, a beard could be the difference between getting oxygen and passing out in 10 seconds. Therefore, the razor is a pilot's best friend. And what happens if things go wrong? Pilots have a secret language of 4-digit codes. If a plane is hijacked, they don't scream for help over the radio. They quietly set their transponder to 7500. The moment air traffic control sees that number on their screen, they know exactly what is happening without a single word being spoken. It's a silent alarm that rings across the entire sky. But here's the real kicker: the captain's legal power. Once those doors are closed, the captain is essentially the king of a small flying nation. They can legally arrest you, write a fine, and even take your last will and testament. There was an old myth that they could marry people too, but that's mostly a fairy tale. Still, you really don't want to argue with someone who can legally put you in zip ties at 30,000 feet. Let's talk about the parts you never look at: the tires. A single tire for a Boeing 747 costs about $2,000, and they only last for about 150 to 200 landings before they are shredded and need to be replaced. But they aren't filled with regular air, they are filled with nitrogen. Why? Because regular air has moisture that could freeze or expand dangerously when the plane goes from a scorching desert runway to the -50 degrees Celsius / -58 degrees Fahrenheit cold of high altitude. Nitrogen is stable, it's boring, and in aviation, boring is safe. Have you ever looked out the window and seen tiny yellow hooks on the wings? They look like something forgot to take them off after manufacturing. But if you ever land on water, those hooks are your best friends. Flight attendants attach ropes to them so you can hold on to something and climb into a life raft without slipping off the wet metallic wing. They are the smallest, most thoughtful safety features you hope you'll never use. And then there is the black box, which, as every aviation geek loves to point out, is actually bright orange. Why orange? Because if a plane crashes, you really don't want to be looking for a black object in a pile of charred debris or at the bottom of a dark ocean. Orange screams, "Find me!" It can survive a crash force of 3,400 times the force of gravity and temperatures that would melt your car. It's the ultimate survivor. Look up next time you board. See a tiny black or red triangle on the wall? That marks the William Shatner seat. Not really, but it marks the seat with the best view of the wings and flaps. If the pilot suspects something is wrong with the wings, they'll come back to that specific seat to check. So if you see a pilot staring out your window from the triangle seat, maybe don't ask for extra pretzels right then. Do you ever find yourself crying at a cheesy romantic comedy while flying? You're not just being sensitive. Studies show that people are much more likely to cry during flights. A combination of low oxygen, fatigue, and the isolation of being in a metal tube makes your emotions go haywire. The airlines aren't just selling you travel, they are giving you an emotional breakdown at 900 kilometers per hour / 560 miles per hour. And finally, the vacuum toilet. That terrifying whoosh sound isn't just for show. Because there is no gravity to help, planes use a high-pressure vacuum system to suck waste into a tank at the back. And no, they don't dump it in midair. It stays in the tank until a very brave person on the ground drains it after you land. So you can relax. You aren't dropping blue ice on anyone's house. Everything in a plane is designed for one thing: the 90-second rule. To even be allowed to fly, an airplane must be capable of being completely evacuated in just 90 seconds, with half the exits blocked and in total darkness. That is the level of precision we are talking about. From the ashtrays that shouldn't be there to the orange boxes that aren't black, aviation is a masterpiece of human obsession. Next time you're frustrated by a delay, just remember, you're part of a system that cares so much about your safety, it even accounts for the idiots who might try to smoke in the bathroom. Did you know about the secret triangles or the 53-second flight? Tell me your favorite aviation fact in the comments. And if you want to know why we build these things in a city that's basically a giant assembly line, subscribe and check out our other videos. See you in the sky!